In my last video, I had mentioned that I thought the Rust Belt was key to Trump winning the election in 2016 against Hillary Clinton. And I gave a couple of reasons. One, the working class Democrats in this region, the working class in this region, were directly impacted by things like the Paris Climate Accords and NAFTA, globalization, we'll say. And you had a candidate, Hillary Clinton, who talked about putting the coal miners out of business, and we have footage of her basically getting reprimanded by coal miners and her feeling very uncomfortable, across the table, and they didn't appreciate that very much. And this region, we call it the Rust Belt, but, from Pennsylvania to Michigan and so forth, their economy, their middle class has depended very much on steel and coal in automobiles, right? And so it makes perfect sense why this woman doesn't care about our jobs. She doesn't care about our jobs. And she's in favor of something like the Paris Climate Accords, which allows India and China to pollute and puts penalties on the United States, right? Donald Trump swooped in and swayed these voters, okay? I don't believe that Russian conspiracy stuff, okay? I don't buy that. And on top of that, Bernie Sanders, I had mentioned, both Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, they were both protectionists. They both believed in protecting workers in the United States, whether it meant tariffs or whatever, okay? And Hillary Clinton stole the election from Bernie Sanders. How many voters who voted for Bernie Sanders either stayed home, or if they were voting for this particular reason, if they were protectionist Democrats, ended up voting for Donald Trump because he was a protectionist. He wanted to protect the middle class in that region and throughout the country. Okay, so it made perfect sense why Trump won the Rust Belt region. Trump is going to continue to carry that region in 2020. Trump pulled out of the Paris Climate Accords, which directly impacted these states. Trump has renegotiated NAFTA. There's a new arrangement between Canada and Mexico. I don't know much about it, but there's a new deal there. And another foreign policy victory will say, NATO. All right. There's a lot of people out there who can't think for themselves, who think, God forbid we question the status quo, question how things have always been in recent history. And these NATO members were not paying their fair share. They weren't paying what they agreed. Okay, when I say fair share, I'm not that socialist thing that just means pay more. They weren't paying the 2%, I believe that it is, or 2.5% or whatever that is agreed to in that arrangement. Trump, being chief negotiator, and he is chief negotiator, and I'm going to tell you right now that if you think Trump is stupid, I'm telling you right now, you are a follower of some kind. You're not thinking for yourself. You're a follower if you think Trump's dumb. But anyway, he has gotten these people to pay more. He's gotten these states to pay more, including states like Germany, who receive natural gas, most of the natural gas from Russia. All right. North Korea. I'll get to some of his foreign policy accomplishments. How many missiles have been fired from North Korea lately? Not many. It's been a while. I don't know how long it's been. What about ISIS? When was the last time you heard about ISIS? The Iraqi government declared victory over ISIS within the past year or two. Okay. Trump has major foreign policy victories. And something else, Trump's going to keep that wall. Or there is wall that actually, from what I understand, George Bush and Barack Obama, they actually were involved in construction of wall in certain areas. But Trump's going to expand that wall, and Trump is, whether he gets an entire wall built or not, Trump is basically going to get his wall. And how many people watching this, how many of you thought when Trump was running for president that you would see a narrowly Democratic controlled House of Representatives agree to give Donald Trump money to build a border wall? They did. They're being children with the amount of money that they're giving him. They're giving him, like, I don't know, billions and billions of dollars for border security, but when it comes to the actual wall, they're not giving him enough. So Trump is chief negotiator. With tariffs, people want to slam him for tariffs and all that, and there's a lot of libertarian types and conservative types even, because it's not free market oriented and all that. I'll tell you what, the tariffs that are put on this country by other countries compared to what we do to others, it is an imbalance. So by raising tariffs to where they are with other countries, what it does is it now brings countries to the table. You had the European Commissioner, the president of the European Commission, I think his name is Juncker, came to the United States and it brought him to the table. Now we're having a discussion. We're either going to have tariffs or we're actually going to have free trade. Not with these politicians, these control freaks, it's really controlled trade, all right? That's what a lot of these trade agreements, that's what they really are. They go as free trade. They're really controlled trade by these politicians who think they can control everything. But with these tariffs, now we are at the negotiating table. With China, now we are at the negotiating table. So, and there's a lot of libertarian-minded people who, when it comes to trade, I actually agree a lot with, and they criticize Trump heavily for this, but they're not looking at the bigger picture. And he uses it as a negotiating tool. I think it's very simple. I got off track, and I want to talk about Virginia because I think Virginia might turn red. And Virginia has been voting Democrat in recent elections. I'm going to talk about abortion really quick because the Democratic Party has gone very far to the left. And I do draw a distinction between the left and liberals that I'm not going to get into in this video. And I do think it's a shame that all these people get lumped into one category. There's a lot of rational liberals out there, and a liberal would not be okay with shutting down free speech on college campuses. Okay, to a liberal does not feel that your race or your gender defines everything about you. Okay, so it's unfair that a lot of these people, who I disagree with, but they're not insane like a lot of these leftists are. But the Democratic Party has gone very far to the left, and this abortion debate that New York started recently is an example of that. And now there are voices in Rhode Island and Virginia who are talking about expanding abortion rights in their states. And I think they're going to have a much more difficult time than New York had, because New York, I don't believe, was under any sort of spotlight when they passed theirs. And the next thing you know, the One World Trade Center is being lit up pink on top and all that. So I don't think states like Rhode Island and Virginia, Rhode Island, I wouldn't put it past Rhode Island. They might pass abortion up till 9 months, like Virginia did. Like New York did. But I would bet you, I'm not a statistician. I'm not like a political analyst, at least professionally. But I would be willing to bet you that if you took the entire pro-choice population, the entire pro-choice voter population in the United States, I would be willing to bet you that not even a majority of them would be okay with abortion up until 9 months. Just the pro-choicers, all right? So this is something that has been taken way to the left. And you had this Virginia governor, Ralph Northam, and he came out less than a week before this whole blackface issue surfaced and the media started covering that, and I think that was deliberate. Ralph Northam was talking about post-birth abortion or infanticide. And I've listened to the audio of this. If you haven't heard the audio of this, I'm not making this up. It's out there. You can listen to him. Oh, we can make the baby comfortable, and then a discussion will ensue between the mother and the... And this is not the majority of America. There's no way the majority of Americans are okay with that. There's no way the majority of Virginians are okay with that. There's no way the majority of pro-choice voters are okay with that. All right? So I believe the media covered it up with this blackface story, and I'm not actually going to get into opinions on that. I really didn't follow that closely. I actually do think I've seen other videos. I actually do think that guy actually probably does have some racist tendencies. I normally don't cry racist like a lot of people in the country do. I think he might be, but I'm not gonna. When CNN was covering that story, they put in, this is a Democratic governor. They put an R next to his name. I saw them do it. They put an R next to Ralph Northam's name, to portray the racist Republicans, that way, the narrative. So I wanted to cover those topics. I think Trump is definitely going to win 2020. We haven't had the Democratic primaries yet. It's going to be very entertaining to watch a large number of Democrats tear into each other and beat each other over the head with identity politics and all that nonsense. But I will say this, okay? I do want to maintain some degree of humility, because I didn't think that the Democrats were actually going to win the House back. But it's very normal for the sitting president to lose seats. I think the average seats that a president loses is like 32 after during the midterms, and Trump lost 37, so a little bit more than average, but 1 seat in the Senate. It was not a blue wave. But the Democrats, I think you would think they're going to pay a little bit more attention this time. They thought, oh, there's no way Trump's going to win the presidency in 2016. Okay, so they were completely caught off guard. You do have some people, I think he's a nut, but you do have some people on the left, like Michael Moore. Michael Moore is actually right. Like, Michael Moore says, he considers Trump an evil genius. I don't think Trump's evil, but Michael Moore has common sense enough to know that Trump is smart, okay? He's not an idiot. Trump is a very, very brilliant man. In my opinion, he's the most brilliant president of my lifetime. Granted, I've only lived through, like, 3 presidents. The last thing that I wanted to say is, who are the real... Sorry to use such a strong word, but who are the real morons here? Because, the working class voters in America, the people who voted for Donald Trump, the people who are tired of being called racist because they want immigration laws enforced, like pretty much every other country, okay? The people who want their jobs, like, respected, and they want to keep their jobs, and they have... People like Hillary Clinton have no respect for the working class of America. That is obvious. They don't care if these people have jobs or not. She doesn't care. These people with all their degrees, right, running around Washington, who think Trump's a moron, which means they're a follower. If you think Trump's a moron, again, you're not thinking for yourself. You're not a critical thinker if you think Trump's dumb. Okay, you're following someone. All these people are running around screaming Russia and all that. And Trump keeps winning. With NATO, with ISIS, with North Korea. With all these victories. There's a lot of them. I haven't gotten to many of them at all. He's going to get the border wall. Alright. And so who's the real moron here? He's completely discredited the media. The mainstream media. So all you people in Washington who have your PhD or whatever, and you think that all these people are beneath you, all these people across America who, the plumbers, the firefighters, the backbone, the people who are involved in with wealth creation in this country and maintaining this country. Who are the real morons? Because they don't articulate their speech like Barack Obama. Donald Trump and the middle class in America, they speak common sense. And a lot of the leftists in Washington and a lot of the Republicans, members of Congress who are not conservative, most of them, they don't speak common sense. They can't hear it. They don't understand it. They don't speak common sense. Donald Trump does, and his voting base does. And it doesn't matter how much the Democratic Party kicks and screams. It doesn't matter how much the media kicks and screams. They're not going to separate Trump from his voting base. As a matter of fact, they are strengthening the resolve of Trump's supporters.